this is James here with the Oracle Outlook for the week starting October the 15th, 2018. If this is your first time here, I'd like to say welcome, and if you're returning, I'd like to say welcome back. This week's deck selection was just a matter of convenience. I literally just got off of a Skype call with one of my cartomancy coaching students, and she is learning Lenormand, and so that is a deck system I will be working with this week again because it was literally out on the table. I'm specifically working with La Faneuse, a Lilac Dondorf, which is my favorite Lenormand deck in my collection. And I will be leaving information about this deck in the description box below so you can learn more about it. But the reason why I like it is because it's an updated reproduction of the classic Dondorf deck. And so in this one, it has an extra man and woman card. And for those of you who may be familiar with the Dondorf deck, traditionally speaking, know that in that deck system, both the lady and the gentleman card are each looking to the right. So they're each looking to the future, if you read with direction in mind. And it's challenging in that regard because they'll never be looking at one another if you're ever working with them, or the cards I should say, in doing a romance reading or a love or relationship reading. They'll never be facing each other. Well, the reproduction has taken care of that because the extra man and woman card are facing the opposite direction. So now you can have the man and the woman facing each other, or if you have a same-sex couple relationship that you're examining, you will have a man looking one way and the man looking the opposite way, so they could be facing each other, and the same for the lady card. So that is one of the reasons why I love this deck so much. So again, we are working with La Faneuse, Lilac Dondorf, and so I have the deck on the table like I already said. So I'm going to take a few moments to shuffle the cards, and as I shuffle, I'm honoring my usual intention for these weekly general readings, and that is by asking the question, what do we need to know for the week ahead? And the underlying intention with that is what information will be most helpful getting us through the week. Feeling one more time will be great. And now I'm going to go ahead and cut the cards. And now fan them out. And I'm looking for 5 cards in the fan that are getting my attention. I saw these 2 first, because I always work with a line of 5 when I do these weekly general readings. And the cards were very easy to pick this week, so I have the 5 cards selected. And I'm taking the remainder of the deck and I'm going to put that to one side. So now I have the 5 cards face down in front of me. And more often than not, when I'm working with a line of 5, I always like to look to the middle card first. For me, the middle card represents the central issue or something that we're being asked to focus on for the week going forward. And the card we have this week is, one of my favorite cards in the deck. Okay, so here we have the key card. So Lenormand is best read with keywords, and so my keywords for key, I think of answers and solutions. So this may be a week where we're focusing on discovering, because this is also about discovery, answers or solutions to challenges, problems, things that we're experiencing this week. So this could be a week where we are discovering answers or solutions, or we're having revelations. This is also about things being revealed. So it could just be a revelation that has within it an answer or solution. For some of us this week, another possibility with key is that we are seeking the truth, finding the truth about a situation, because this card for me can also represent the truth. It could also be signifying that this is going to be an important week overall, because one of the keywords that I have for this card is importance, or something being important. So again, this could be a week where the focus or the concentration of energy will be on answers and solutions. It could be about things being important, things being certain, or having some kind of revelation or something having to do with the truth. So that is my associations and possibilities for key this week. And so now what we'll do is we'll take a look at the surrounding cards because Lenormand is best read in combinations. So the surrounding cards will offer us possibly either more information about key as a central issue or giving us some other possibilities to consider for the week overall. So going with the card in the far left, okay, this makes sense. So starting off the line we have the roads, also known as crossroads, also known as the path, also known as the way, or the ways. So this card, my chief keyword association for this card is choices or decisions. So there may be an important, if we go with the idea that crossroads came first, and then with key following after, there may be a matter of a decision or a choice needing to be made, and it is important. Going with the idea that key can also represent answers and solutions. When it comes to choices or decisions, we may be on the road to reaching an answer or solution to whatever is being presented in terms of crossroads. So now, metaphorically speaking, crossroads can represent this idea about being at a metaphorical fork in the road or crossroads at life and needing to make some choices and decisions about the best course going forward. Like I call this card choosing the best course. So it could just be a matter of that. And if that resonates with people this week, then it's a matter of, with key following it, finding the answers or solutions in terms of the best course going forward. So again, crossroads can represent choices or decisions. It can represent being at a metaphorical fork in the road, crossroads, intersection in life, and needing to make a decision about which way to go. You know, what's the best course, what's the best road, path, avenue to pursue, right? So all of that involves crossroads. Now, with the idea about choices and decisions, another layer of meaning with crossroads is that it can represent having more than one option. This is a card for me in the deck, one of them anyway, that represents multiples. So this would be a matter of looking at all the options and alternatives that are within the choice or the decision needing to be made, right? So that is crossroads. Now let's take a look at the card in between crossroads and key. Okay, so here we have the ring card. So ring for me, my chief go-to keyword for this card is commitment. So it could just be a matter of honoring commitments this week. We may have a number of commitments, and maybe that's where the choices or the decisions need to come in, or that in terms of options and alternatives, they may be tied to some commitment. It could be actually the choice of decision is to make a commitment. And then with key following that, the commitment is important. So there may be choices or decisions around a commitment that need to be made, and it's significant or it's important, right? So there is that. But ring in and of itself this is a time to consider commitments, serious commitments. It could be an engagement, you know, but it's saying on some level, whatever the choice or the decision that needs to be made, it requires some serious commitment, right? So there is that. Now let's take a look at the card on the other side of key for this week, and we have, okay, so here we have the stork. So stork is a card for me that represents change and improvement, right? And so if we go with the idea that we're telling a story, and here with the first card, with crossroads, we have this choice or decision, or that we're at a place in our journey through life or on our path where we're at a crossroads and needing to make a choice or decision. And with that, we are looking at our options and alternatives, and there may be more than one, right? And then with that, we're being asked to commit to something with ring, right? You know, it could just also too suggest that the path that we're on, we're at a stage where we're maybe needing to consider making a serious commitment to something, right? And with that, that's where the choices and the options, or the alternatives, I should say, come in, right? And with that, we're seeking answers or solutions, or we are discovering answers or solutions that are going to be helpful in helping us determine the best course going forward. Now, Stork following that, if we agree with all of that, then Stork following that, this is all about change. Changing something and improving something, making something better, right? So as a result of finding or discovering those answers, those solutions, right, then that helps us change something or improve something. One of the choices in particular for someone could be moving. Stork is a migration card, and so it could just be a matter of a move or a relocation that people have to take into account, have to consider. It could be multiple, if we're going with the idea that crossroads can represent a road or a path or an avenue in life, literally the road that we're on, there may be a number of places that people are considering and maybe needing to narrow that down, kind of thing. But it makes me feel on some level that the answers and solutions that are being discovered have within them something that would allow a situation to change for the better or to improve it. And especially with Stork facing the key, right? So now I'm just taking a look at the playing card inserts, and I noticed that we have two face cards. We have two queens. We have a queen on crossroads, and we have a queen on the Stork. So if we take them and we put them together for just a moment, we have an interesting dynamic here because we have one queen facing the other. But the Queen of Diamonds on crossroads is not looking back at the Queen of Hearts. So we may have, for some people, there may be a situation involving two women and coming to some kind of agreement because they're looking each in the same direction. So if we go with the idea that crossroads can also be about direction per se, again going with the idea about options, alternatives, choosing the best course, that can imply direction, then we have two women in their relationship who are considering maybe an agreement, going with ring, an agreement, or looking at their relationship and being, in agreement in terms of the direction of the relationship. So there is that. Now, the two cards in between could be aspects that the women are focusing on, or what's in between their relationship. So if we take the Ace of Clubs is also a card that can represent something new in terms of work. So this could be a working relationship or the beginning of a social relationship, because clubs represent for me work, business, and also things having to do with social activity. So there may be a social commitment between two women that they are working on, potentially starting up. And then the Eight of Diamonds is a card that could talk about seeing, because it can represent the eyes. So usually can represent spectacles, the eyes, things to see. But it can also represent some kind of limitation and restriction that we are working through. So it could just be a matter of two women working through some kind of limitation and restriction in their relationship, right? That kind of thing, because I see this with the Eight of Diamonds and the Ace of Clubs. But if we take the Ace of Clubs and the Eight of Diamonds out of the equation, Stork and Crossroads could be representing two women, generally speaking. Okay, so now let's take a look at the card rounding out the line. I had a feeling this card was going to show up. So now, rounding out the line, we have the Child card. So now the Child card, going with the literal aspect of Lenormand, it could represent a literal child. So there may be something having to do with children, or a child or children are factoring into the situation. More often than not, I go with the other meanings that I have for child. And child could represent starting something, so it could represent the start of something, something beginning, something being new. So if we go with the idea here that child is modifying Stork, if we go with the idea that Stork can represent change and improvement, then this could represent a new change or the beginning of change, or a change is starting. It could also represent going with the idea about size with child. Child can represent things that are small. So here we have maybe a small change or a small improvement. And so that could mean for some people that when we're talking about the idea of change, change doesn't have to be this big, sweeping, epic kind of overhaul type thing. It could be just starting off with one small change you could make that would change everything, right? So it could just be a matter of, if there is some sort of change, if there is some sort of improvement that we are needing to make some kind of decision or needing to decide on committing to, it could be like, what's the one small thing within that maybe larger scenario that you could start with? Because the child card would be saying, start small, right? So it could also be too, like maybe needing to simplify something, because I tend to look at child as simplicity or needing to simplify something. So if something needs to be changed, is there a way that you could simplify the process? So I'm hearing a song in my head called Make It Easy on Me. So what could you change in a small way that would make it easier on you going forward, right? But child in and of itself can just represent this idea about starting something new, beginning something new, those kinds of things. So it could just be a matter of the decision being made could be to start something new, could be to start over. You know, if we go with the idea that Stork is talking about changes and improvements, then it could just be maybe the decision to start again. And if we go with the idea that Stork could also be for those people who may be contemplating a move, it could be a move to a new area. Now, another thing that I will say, sometimes with these two cards, another obvious message is the idea of somebody expecting. So it could just be a matter of that there may be a decision to start a family, right? Going with the idea that we have child, and going with that, you know, we had Stork. Stork can represent a mother figure because of the Queen of Hearts and the inset. So since we have all of that going on, somebody may be embarking on the path to parenthood or motherhood, and there is a pregnancy, because of these two cards will make me feel like somebody's expecting. So with that, or even it could just be a matter of what are the expectations within the change. If it's not about pregnancy, if it's not about expecting in the literal sense, then it could just be a matter of taking a look at what our expectations are, right? And maybe I always say this with expectations, and maybe if that's a thing and that resonates with people, how can you manage your expectations? Meaning not make your expectations too big or too high, those kinds of things, but how can you manage them, you know, kind of thing. So again, this could be somebody literally is expecting, contemplating becoming pregnant, wanting to have a child, or this could just be about some kind of expectation that comes with changing things up in your life. So that is how I would look at the line this week. And on that note, I'm going to go ahead and end this week's Oracle Outlook. I'm James Himm Mitchell, and as I close, I'd like to thank you for sharing space here with me for this week's reading, and I look forward to sharing the same space with you again in our next video reading together. So until then, I'm hoping that you have a wonderful day, and I'm hoping that you have a wonderful week. Take care.